10 chilling serial killer quotes that show they had no remorse. Welcome to Dark Chronicles, a place where we delve into the darkest corners of human history, uncovering the chilling minds of those who crossed the line between life and death. Today, we're diving into the most unsettling words ever spoken by some of the world's most infamous serial killers. These quotes aren't just shocking. They reveal something far more terrifying: the complete lack of remorse from individuals who committed unimaginable acts. Brace yourselves, because these killers had no conscience and no regrets. Number 10. Carl Panzram. In no way am I sorry for what I have done. Because I do not have a conscience, I am not concerned about it. I do not have faith in either man, God, or the devil. I despise every single member of the awful human race, including myself. Carl Panzram was responsible for the deaths of as many as 22 young men and boys. Few serial killers are as cold as Panzram. Born in Minnesota, the son of Prussian immigrants, he claimed to have sexually assaulted over 1,000 victims. In my lifetime, I have committed thousands of burglaries, robberies, larcenies, and arsons. And last but not least, I have committed sodomy on more than 1,000 male human beings, he wrote in his memoir. I have also committed murders of human beings, and for all of this, I feel no regret. After being found guilty of murdering a prison officer, Panzram was hanged at Leavenworth Penitentiary on September 25, 1930. It's said that he spat in the face of his executioner and shouted, "I wish all of mankind had one neck so I could choke it." When asked if he had any final words, his response, "Yes, hurry it up, you Hoosier bastard. I could kill 10 men while you're fooling around." Number 9. Gary Lee Sampson. My frustration with getting blood on myself led me to move from stabbing to strangling as a method of self-defense. Gary Lee Sampson's murderous rampage in 2001 claimed the lives of 3 people. In 2003, a jury sentenced him to death. However, in 2011, jury misconduct overturned that sentence, resulting in a retrial. During that second trial, Sampson, once a drifter and bank robber, signed his own death warrant. His violent outbursts in court were relentless. He yelled at the judge, swore at him, showing no remorse. In fact, Sampson described his frustration with the messiness of stabbing. He explained that after getting too much blood on himself from his first 2 victims, he decided to strangle his third for a cleaner kill. In 2017, Sampson received a second death sentence. This time, it stuck. Despite being prosecuted in a federal court in Massachusetts, where executions are rare, Sampson's actions proved he hadn't learned anything. There was no remorse, only cold calculation. The son of one of the victims said it best. He boasts and gloats about what he's done. He truly lives by the phrase, "An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth." One of the worst kinds of people. Number 8. Aileen Wuornos. I want the world to know that I was the one who killed these men, as cold as ice. I have a deep-seated aversion to human beings. I murdered them in cold blood, and I was just a scumbag. Aileen Wuornos, one of America's most infamous female serial killers, was sentenced to death for the murders of 7 men between 1989 and 1990 in Florida. These men had hired her as a prostitute, but instead of fulfilling her role, Wuornos took their lives in cold blood. Her courtroom outbursts and violent demeanor mirrored the darkness of her past, one filled with abandonment, sexual abuse, and emotional neglect. While incarcerated, she wrote, "I have hated crawling through my system." Wuornos expressed her desire for death, stating it would be a waste of taxpayers' money to keep her alive. Even in the courtroom, after being sentenced to death, she lashed out at the jury, shouting, "I hope you get attacked." On October 5, 2002, Aileen Wuornos was executed at Florida State Prison, becoming the 11th woman to face execution in the U.S. since the death penalty's reinstatement for women in 1976. Her story is one of cold vengeance, with no sign of remorse. Number 7. John Wayne Gacy. They can only accuse me of operating a funeral business without a license, which is the only thing they can get me for. By day, John Wayne Gacy was known as Pogo the Clown, entertaining at children's parties. By night, he was a cold-blooded killer. Between 1967 and 1978, Gacy was responsible for the assault, torture, and murder of at least 33 young men and boys. Many of his victims were vulnerable runaways he picked up off the streets, lost souls that Gacy preyed upon. The turning point came when witnesses placed Gacy as the last person seen with his final victim. When police arrived at his home in Cook County, Illinois, they were overwhelmed by a pungent, horrific smell. A search of the house revealed what Gacy chillingly referred to as a funeral parlor without a license, a crawl space beneath his home where he buried his victims. Despite the horrors uncovered, Gacy maintained his eerie composure, showing no remorse. Before his execution on May 10, 1994, Gacy's final meal consisted of a bucket of KFC fried chicken, French fries, a dozen fried shrimp, and a pound of strawberries. A killer hidden behind a mask of normalcy, with no regret for the atrocities he committed. Number 6. Edmund Kemper. You remove their heads and lift them by their hair when you hear that small pop. These are the actions you take. While they were whipping their heads off, their bodies were sitting there. That's going to eject me. Standing at 6 feet 9 inches and weighing over 250 pounds, Edmund Kemper was an imposing and terrifying figure. His violent tendencies emerged early. At just 15, he shot and killed his grandparents. When asked why, he chillingly replied, "I just wanted to see what it felt like to kill Grandma." Despite being placed in the criminally insane unit at Atascadero State Hospital, Kemper's high intelligence, scoring 145 on an IQ test, allowed him to manipulate his way through psychiatric evaluations and eventually gain his release. However, his dark fantasies returned. A psychiatrist later noted that Kemper imagined such things as killing everyone in town and having sexual relations with corpses. Between 1964 and 1973, he went on to kill 8 more people, including his own mother. He didn't just murder her, though. Kemper subjected her body to repeated humiliation. Reflecting on the night of her death, he coldly stated, "I cut off her head, and of course, I humiliated her." He believed she deserved it, for how she had raised him. A man whose monstrous strength was matched only by his lack of humanity. His words are as disturbing as his actions. Number 5. Jeffrey Dahmer. It has always been a mystery to me why I don't experience a greater sense of regret. Jeffrey Dahmer, a Milwaukee resident, is infamous as one of the most notorious cannibals in history. Between 1978 and 1991, Dahmer murdered 17 males, including teenagers, dismembering their bodies and consuming parts of them. His descent into depravity began after being honorably discharged from the Army due to excessive drinking, which marked the beginning of his out-of-control behavior. When authorities finally entered Dahmer's apartment, they uncovered one of the most horrifying crime scenes imaginable. The apartment was filled with photographs of dismembered bodies, human skulls, and plastic barrels containing the remains of 3 torsos. Strips of human flesh and a human heart were found in the refrigerator. Dahmer explained his gruesome desires, stating, "It was a craving, a hunger. I don't know how to describe it, a compulsion." On November 24, 1994, Dahmer's life came to an end when fellow inmate Christopher Scarver used a 20-inch metal rod to kill him in the showers of Columbia Correctional Institution. A man driven by unimaginable compulsions, yet strangely puzzled by his lack of regret, leaving behind a legacy of horror few can comprehend. Number 4. Ted Bundy. What does it matter if there is one fewer person on the surface of the earth? During his trial, Ted Bundy portrayed himself as an innocent man. But once on death row, the facade crumbled, and he confessed to 28 murders. In an interview with retired investigator Robert Keppel, Bundy made it clear he felt no guilt, stating, "Guilt is this mechanism we use to control people. It is a hallucination, a form of social control mechanism, and it is extremely detrimental to one's health. It causes our bodies to suffer dreadful consequences." Bundy's cold rationalization of his actions was shocking, and it reflected his complete lack of empathy. Art Norman, a forensic psychologist who interviewed Bundy for over 100 hours, argued that Bundy should not have been executed. "There was no one on Earth who had a better understanding of serial killers than Ted," he explained. Bundy knew exactly what he was doing, and Norman believed his insights could have helped prevent future murders. "Ted had the opportunity to contribute something to the community," he added, "but Bundy was never given that chance. The public wanted justice, and they wanted him gone." A manipulator who understood human behavior better than most, Bundy saw no value in life, only in power and control. Number 3. Karla Homolka. On her new identity. I have a lot of respect for Quebec. Karla Homolka, a Canadian serial murderer, alongside her partner Paul Bernardo, was responsible for the rape and murder of 3 young women between 1990 and 1992. One of the victims was Homolka's own sister, 15-year-old Tammy. In a chilling act of cruelty, Tammy was offered to Bernardo as a Christmas gift, an opportunity for him to minimize risk, take control, and keep it all in the family. Homolka also played an active role in the kidnapping and killing of 2 other victims, young women who trusted her as a woman to keep them safe. Despite her direct involvement in these heinous acts, Homolka managed to secure a controversial plea deal in exchange for her testimony against Bernardo, resulting in a mere 12-year prison sentence. Since her release, Homolka has reinvented herself. She changed her identity, moved to Quebec, married the brother of her former defense attorney, and started a family. Her attempts to lead a normal life, including volunteering at a Montreal school, have sparked public outrage, especially considering that she lives a life her victims never will. Homolka continues to live with relative freedom, while the memories of her crimes haunt the nation. A woman who helped destroy lives, yet now walks free, with no apparent remorse. Number 2. Albert Fish. For some reason, I always seem to take pleasure in causing pain. There is nothing more important than the urge to cause harm to another person. Albert Fish stands as one of the most monstrous individuals ever to commit crimes against children. Convicted of murdering 10-year-old Grace Budd, 9-year-old Frances McDonnell, and 4-year-old Billy Gaffney, Fish chillingly boasted that he had children in every state. His crimes earned him a death sentence. Psychiatrists who examined Fish before his trial concluded that he was a sadomasochist, obsessed with inflicting agony, both on himself and on his victims. X-rays revealed a disturbing truth. Fish had inserted at least 29 needles into his pelvis, a horrifying testament to his desire for pain. In his own words, Fish admitted, "I have always had a desire to inflict pain on other people and to have other people inflict pain on me." For him, the desire to cause suffering was all-consuming. On January 16, 1936, Fish was executed at Sing Sing by electric chair. His last words, "I don't even know why I'm here." A man driven by a twisted compulsion to harm others, Fish's complete lack of remorse makes him one of history's most horrifying killers. Number 1. Richard Ramirez. In every case, death was a natural part of the game. We will meet up in Disneyland. Known as the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez instilled terror in the citizens of Los Angeles and San Francisco between 1984 and 1985. Under the cover of night, he would break into homes, brutally killing his victims through shooting, stabbing, slashing, or bludgeoning. A self-proclaimed Satan worshipper, Ramirez left pentagrams associated with the devil at crime scenes. In the courtroom, he was unsettlingly calm, smirking as evidence was presented, casually rocking in his chair, and flashing a pentagram he had drawn on his hand. The judge described his actions as displaying cruelty, callousness, and viciousness beyond any human understanding. On November 7, 1989, when Ramirez was sentenced to death, he shrugged it off and told reporters, "Big deal. In every case, death was a natural part of the game. You'll find me at Disneyland." Even in interviews from death row at San Quentin, he remained eerily detached, stating, "We all have the ability to kill, but the majority of people are afraid to use it. Those that are fearless are the ones who have power over life itself." And there you have it, the terrifying words of those who walked among us without a shred of remorse. Their chilling statements remind us of the darker side of humanity, and why society must remain vigilant. If you found this episode unsettling, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest deep dives into the macabre. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, monsters don't always hide in the shadows.